Next thing on the agenda is the approval of the minutes from March 20th, our last meeting. I just saw a couple of, I've already told Darcy. One was Jared Gray, who's will be a Winthrop officer. And motion was misspelled in one place.
You're in big trouble, Darcy.
Yeah.
Not gonna get 100 on your spelling.
Oh.
Like we did.
Oh. We are on record.
Yeah. Seems like when you
I
said-
heard you say that. I have no comment at this time. Do we know when the video of that is going to be posted? A constituent asked me that question.
Should be up there.
It should be.
Could you double check?
Yeah, it's usually up to date. Dennis puts them up usually the
I
next day.
know it is because
You do?
somebody mentioned watching it. too.
All right, so for the record, it is posted on YouTube. Okay, my public service is done.
The last one.
The one, the minutes for talking about.
I want to see. Oh, I need a motion for
I
that
make a motion, we accept the minutes
with the correction.
with the corrections,
I'll second that.
So the-
so that Darcy can get 100%.
It's gold star.
Oh, okay, made a motion and Chris seconded it to approve the minutes with the corrections. All those in favor? Thank you. Next, public comment.
It's Guardian, we don't know what
I know. Did you move that?
I switched it around at somebody, I don't remember.
I asked that question.
Somebody asked if it could be first.
Oh, I went to, that's how they do
Was
it.
it me and you?
Yeah, we were in Winthrop's.
Yeah, so I figured I'd do it, see if anybody noticed. And
Yeah.
you did.
Like, wait. You're trying to trick us.
It's just the public's opportunity to put anything on our agenda.
The RSU used to do that. Of course, nobody would know what,
Exactly,
so they wouldn't know what to comment on. Or unless they've been brought some kind
yeah.
Well, this is they can comment as we go on our other agenda items, but in the meantime, they can add to our
Yeah,
agenda.
This is their opportunity to
This is
speak.
their opportunity.
Well, unless the chair recognizes. them.
Exactly.
They can be recognized by you guys at
You
any
know how
time.
dictatorial our chair is.
Well, last meeting he was. Not as bad as the old plan.
Yeah.
Those are the ones.
It's the new ones, right?
Those are the ones we, yeah.
Yeah.
So.
Yes.
Well, there's no public comment.
Sir. He's still throwing off.
Check. Reports.
I got an idea.
Good evening. Thanks, Tony, for allowing me to go first. I'll start out by, this morning, it's not in my notes, Doug, but I'll share with you, this morning, it's Memorial School, and I got to read to the little kiddos, and what a treat that was. I got to read a couple books to all 3 kindergarten classes. Quite a treat to be invited to go there. It's always cool walking down the hallway, and they would come in from an assembly, and there was all kinds of different grades, and kids were just running up to me, giving me hugs left and right. Felt like a rock star. Anyways, apologies for missing last meeting. I had to attend another meeting up at Farmington Fire Department for Maine Forest Service. They're doing something different this year. They used to go around to every town and do every forest warden station. They would do meetings. Now they're doing it like in one municipal location, and they're actually live streaming it to several departments. So they don't have to go out to the regions. So it's a little different way of doing things. The one takeaway that I had was, the new law on open burning. It's now gonna be required to have a burning permit if you have a fire. That's 3 foot radius. Higher than 3 feet. So just picture a 3 foot ball. If the flames are bigger than that, you need to have a permit, even if it's in a rock stone fire pit. If you're doing, spring cleanup, you've got a pretty good sizable flame, you need a permit. So that's a new law that came out this year. So I expect we're gonna see more permits as that gets out to the public. Just a little FYI, we still have free permits, wardensreport.com is our local one. You can still go on the main Forest Service website and get an online burning permit. Those used to be a fee that now nix that, it's free on their website as well.
And Chief, how many times? I mean, I think about going into history when permits were not free and when permits were not available online and they were paper only and it was kind of inconvenient and a pain in the butt. And how many times did you have to, did someone have to send somebody out to go check on something that was an innocuous, reasonably safe burn, but someone who just didn't get their permit?
That's correct. That's gone by the wayside. Like we have so less calls now because people are getting permits because they're so convenient.
Right.
You can get them on your phone, you should print out the permit, but at least if you can bring it up on your phone, that's allowed. Show that you did get it. But yeah, we go out less frequent now, not only on actually having to issue paper permits, but false alarms, for somebody that had a contained fire in an outdoor pit, just didn't have a permit.
And so how many times do you get calls from people today who are like, dude, there's smoke coming from 4 doors down, and your answer is, oh yeah, they got a permit.
Yeah, it happens, not as much as it used to. It's much more convenient now, being able to have these online permits. In fact, last year, the state Forest Service, this isn't Warden's report, this is just the State Forest Service, issued a record 60,000 state permits. So they've seen a big uptick as well.
I think that's just good news.
Yeah.
That people are just,
And the
because it's
fires are
easy
down,
and
the fires are
convenient.
down. Last year was a record year, 35 years, something like that. The number of acreage that burned way low.
Cool.
So the rain every day.
Is it ready to?
Probably a good.
Just pretty well.
You probably saw in my weekly memo, we recently purchased 4 LED stop signs. Did that for safety reasons. I'll tell you, there's a lot of rubberneckers out there, people driving. They just come upon us real quickly or just not paying attention. So at least with these signs, they'll see us from a distance with more illumination. We're gonna try them out, and if we like them, we'll get 4 more for next year, and then we'll take our old paddle signs off the trucks and have just LED lights. Recently, we trained on lithium-ion batteries, electric vehicles, and solar panel systems, fires. It was pretty interesting. We had an outside speaker that came to the station for about 3 hours and trained us on that. Lithium-ion batteries are pretty scary. A lot of fires I'm seeing in my industry, fire investigations, there's a lot going on with the charging of these batteries and failures that are occurring. And they're just pushing them out there, they're in everything. So we're gonna see more and more fires from these, unfortunately. So if I can say anything fire prevention wise, you're charging things, do it while you're awake and you're still present. Don't just plug in your portable battery chargers with lithium-ion batteries and leave them charging and take off for the day. Want to monitor. Tomorrow we had to cancel our fire marshals for a second time due to snowstorms. They were supposed to come in and talk about the tragedy up in Farmington, killed Captain Bell. It's now going to be postponed to May 16th. The AED for this building, we just got it this week, so I just put it in the middle room. I haven't anchored it to the wall, but we got a cabinet with the AED. It's all battery powered up, ready to go.
Lithium ion batteries.
Yeah, probably.
And you fixed the one at the town office?
Yes, yeah, and then Captain Rennie did that, and he'll, I told Lori Walker that he'll monitor that. in that EMS stuff, so. Next week, we're hopeful to start breaking ground down at the museum building. We did delay because of the storms. It's all Tony's fault. Thanks. Hoping, I think we're first on the list for the excavator operator. It's Aaron Batchelder, our leads, do that work for us. So hopefully you'll start seeing some heavy equipment move in there and start digging a hole. On 4/16, gonna be meeting with Derigo Communications up at the tower on North Hill. We're getting quotes to replace our repeater up there. How old is it, Hugh? Over 30 years, probably.
Paul Fox was.
Paul Fox was still cheap when we had that repeater, so we've had several versions since then. Quite outdated piece of equipment. I don't have the quote, but I'm gonna estimate parts, pieces, installation. We're probably looking at about 15 grand, maybe a little less. And I'll have a quote 16. But this is a critical piece of infrastructure for our radio frequency, and we're having more and more radio problems. I don't know if it's something to do with the repeater or if it's something to do with the antenna, with water infiltration into the line. We've had that problem before, so we may have to have somebody look at that. But it's something we need to start looking at sooner than later. We decided we're not gonna do a standby generator up there. We think the newer repeater, they come with battery backups, they last for days. It's really unnecessary to have a standby generator just for that little repeater building. That's the other thing we're looking to do, is replace the old structure. We got an old wooden shed. It's just not really weather tight, mice tight, all that fun stuff. And we have a donated cabinet in our shed right now at the station that we use to put the new repeater in. So that won't be at any cost, other than we might have to build a little platform, pad or something to put it on. But we're hoping to do that maybe in next year's budget. If the town warrant gets approved for that fire department equipment, I'm prepared to utilize those funds to do this critical infrastructure.
So that's in your proposal here.
Yeah. Each party, we got, just quick update, we'll be getting the donation letters sent out pretty soon. Probably in the next 2 weeks, we'll start, see anything, but we're gonna be soliciting people for donations. And we picked a live band called the Maniacs. I've seen them play down in Booth Bay Harbor, they're pretty good. So looking forward to some live music. The last thing I got is just to update you on the OSHA Rule 1910.156 proposal. So hopefully there's gonna be a news story tomorrow night. I got interviewed by WGN13 on this. And I filled in the town manager the other day about it. It's something that they're doing to start enforcing some mandatory language with fire departments and EMS departments, and it could be approaching if it goes through as it's proposed. As far as mandatory language, what's going to be required of all our volunteer firefighters, officers, and just the logistical nightmare of trying to keep track of it all. It's gonna require an increase in our budget, pretty substantial. I don't have figures yet. Kind of just giving you guys, I'm planting the seed to let you know this is coming down the tracks. Hoping OSHA is gonna dial it back a little once enough public comment comes in and they rethink things. Because I could foresee some smaller fire departments closing their doors and maybe turning into some regionalization of the fire service. More to come. I just want to, I think you guys saw my weekly memo where I kind of highlighted some bullet points on that topic. I will be meeting with Representative Greenwood and Senator Hickman, hopefully in the next few weeks, along with some area fire chiefs to start some discussions. See if the legislators can help us out. Any questions for me? Yeah.
Is the generator behind the fire station tied into the theater or the Medley Hall?
It is, there's a transfer switch that can switch it on and off on the outside of the building. That's being covered by a big bush that's covering all their electrical stuff that really should be cut back. Yes, it's tied in there for emergency purposes. So if we ever had to use Dawn Melody Hall as an emergency shelter, we could.
And the replacement generator that we're saving for is is it a bigger unit than what you have there now, or is it
It's a similar size unit.
similar size? Justin and I were having discussion about that, and if it was tied in and we've never used the building
Never.
and.
I think we used it once and nobody came. Yeah. Put cots out, monitors out there, and nobody came. We've used our station more. Had I think one person not this past winter, but the previous winter that stayed overnight, which we shouldn't be doing. We're not a station. We don't have shower facilities. We really shouldn't have people sleeping on the floor in cots in our station.
Does Helen Medley Hall have showers or, so the idea of that being an emergency shelter is still not,
But it should be more like a warming shelter, not a 24/7. It's not manned.
It's
you know.
plumbed for a shower, it just never was.
We can open up our station as like a warming shelter for people to come at certain hours of the day.
Right.
But even then, we should be manning it. We shouldn't just allow people to be there
Right.
unsupervised. It's kind of a sticky situation with volunteer departments, but. Or we could put people on payroll and say, look, for 4 hours, you need to kind of babysit the station and be available if people come, you need to charge their phones or use the bathroom or just get warm. You could do that. I've seen certain departments do that, but the couple that we had that came last year that slept overnight wasn't very sanitary, and for 3 days, you could still smell stuff. I don't want to go through that again. Okay. Any other questions? Thank you.
Thank you.
Sorry, I was a little long-winded, so.
Jeez, I thought you'd be short. I don't know if I can go that far. We'll guarantee May 16th, you're fine. And it is kind of funny, the 2 worst storms in the last 3 years have been since I started here.
It's laws.
Yeah. Well, hopefully tomorrow's is a dud compared to what they're claiming it's gonna be. So I'll touch on a few issues. I know we had some fireworks last week. It is posted because I watched it. Whatever questions you want me to go into, we did, so. We got a big storm tomorrow. We're prepared. You will see that, we're gonna stay away from the shoulders as best we can, so we're not, rolling dirt down into the ditches, making our future life more miserable. The good news is that it's supposed to be over by Friday morning, 60 degrees early next week, so it should be short-lived. But it'll be a nuisance for a couple days. Gravel roads, plowing those. Last storm I jumped in and helped on most of them. That's the game plan again tomorrow. That's not because I don't trust those guys. It's just that lighter equipment out there on those roads is better right now, and we all know how rough a shape they're in. Wagon Road, we went out and patched the big washout that intruded into the travel lane, which was dangerous. We were out there for about a day. We did that ourselves in-house. There's a lot of work on that road still to go. We just heard from FEMA actually today. There's a meeting. I believe it's next week.
Yep.
Is that a phone or is there somebody actually coming?
They'll come.
Yeah. So there's some pretty good damage there. There's nothing that, in my mind, we can't fix ourselves. We have the equipment, we have the capability, so that would be the game plan right now, just cost-wise. Better.
Was the bridge open today?
No.
No.
The bridge, the water's still high. I actually went down there because I keep getting calls about the barricades. We don't put the barricades out, that's all the DOT. That's their little jewel. It will be blocked off tomorrow if we get that much snow because we're not plowing all the way down to it, so cars shouldn't be able to get there. Last snowstorm, somebody tried to go there and we'd get the PD out there and they had to have somebody come tow them out. The water's still quite high. So month of February, we had 0.8 of an inch of. So when I say water, it could be snow or however, you know, they measure snow, they just melt the water down. But they're equivalent. And so we had less than an inch of water in February. So I said, well, go on the weather site, national weather out of Gray. So in the last 20 years, second driest February. 9 inches of rain just over that month of March. Highest March in 20 years. So that's put us way behind. I mean, at the first part of March, we posted the roads. We think we're gonna be fairly early. All hell broke loose. We have been out and graded several of the roads. Now, when I say grade, we're just trying to smooth them up as best we can. We have to pick and choose because the really wet ones, I can't put that grader out there. That's a very heavy piece of equipment. All we're gonna do is make more mud. It's gonna be worse. So we've been picking and choosing. If you ask me which is the worst road, that changes. You got, rules violation right there. We did Ward and Wilson Pond, most of Wilson Pond Road, this week. Perkins was horrible. A piece of Carver, we did some work on, but it was too wet, so. We've chipped away, we've done quite a bit of it just to get them drivable. Twice Perkins, they couldn't even get a bus down it. That's an issue. My world, I don't like them seeing untravelable, so we took a bunch of stone and stuff up there to get that. So they could drive on it. So how much do you want me to go into gravel roads? Now, if you had specific questions, or I could do a quick 5-minute, this is what's supposed to happen, whatever your pleasure is.
Well, you were supposed to meet with Litchfield's town
Okay, so
manager, so
yeah.
can you talk about that part?
Yeah, so we met with Litchfield, that would be on the Litchfield and Town Farm Road and Bees Hill. There's a big discrepancy on where is the line. As near as I can tell, and what I've been told is there's a cross culvert about 155, 60 feet up the road that is just in Litchfield. That's where the culprit was that caused the washout at the bottom. So as Justin did a good job of explaining, it's illegal for us to spend money on another town's road. It's like going on private property and doing, you know, if you said, well, go put a septic system in on Joe Smith's yard for him, we can't do that. That's so. Litchfield's side of it is they don't have a taxpayer on that road. They don't care about that road. They don't care if it washes out. They don't want to put any money into it, which I can kind of understand. We did explain to them, you know, it's their responsibility to do something. So we couldn't find anything on where the line is. So their town manager is gonna look into, try to figure out where exactly the town line is so that we can come up with some sort of an agreement. I did say, as we have done in the past, you know, there's always agreements of plowing roads where, geez, I gotta go another 100 yards, we're gonna plow that and you can turn around here, and that happens a lot of spaces. That's common amongst all public works. We've graded the road for years and years, probably forever, and do the same thing there. I mean, it makes no sense for me to not drive the grader another 160 feet. There's a parking lot there that is neither towns. That's I guess that's private is what I took out of
They said.
whatever the bird sanctuary is. So we
David
don't
has some-
plow it.
Yeah.
We don't do anything. So, long story short, they're supposed to be finding out where the line is, if it's in any of their paperwork or deed. I could not find anything. I kind of scoured without going to to registry of deeds and see if there's anything there. There should be something for a right of way for a road, how wide it is and that, but we didn't get that. So it is an issue. Is the issue, do we solve it by ending the, just road stops where it stops? Because they don't wanna maintain their end? Do they give us that piece of the road and it just continues on? That's gonna be future discussion. But we had a pretty good conversation out there. We cleaned out the culvert. I said, you know, for the sake of argument right now, we're gonna clean out the end of the culvert, so hopefully it doesn't flood. But the amount of rain we got is. So the state you used to size culverts for a 25-year storm. Well, a 100-year storm happens about every 3 years now. So culverts get inundated. There's gonna be water running over. You'd never be able to afford to make every culvert handle a 100-year storm. It just cost prohibitive. You couldn't make them deep enough. Just a lot to it. You'd have bridges everywhere. We know how expensive those are. So I don't know if that completely answers your question, but that's, and Justin can chime in if I missed anything on what we talked about.
No, I think it was a very blunt discussion. I think they were just as blunt as we were about. I think that Tony and I
Oh,
both
we both-
reiterated, we both said, this is your responsibility, and they said, our board is never gonna let us spend any money here. We've got 3 people in Public Works and it's just not gonna happen. Like, it was just very matter of fact, right? Isn't that pretty much, that's pretty much what they said.
That's Larry for you.
I mean, it was just.
Well, the cards got laid on the table. I
Yeah.
mean, we told them how we felt.
So those people, they know about what you've done? The people who came and,
I haven't talked to anybody. Nobody. So I got a call from a very nice lady the other day, just asking when we were gonna be able to get back to that road. I told her, this, what I just explained about all the mud and all that stuff. I said, it's on our list. That's the only person I've talked to on Pease Hill Road. That was this week.
I got some feedback from some constituents on Peace Hill.
Sure.
One of them is that somebody, according to the scuttlebutt, knows where that marker is, like there's a.
I'd love to talk to him.
Exactly. So, let me put you in touch with them.
Yeah, absolutely.
And I suggested to them that once the snow clears, they put a piece of, flag it.
Yeah, because we thought this goes back to Herb told such and such, who told such and
Sure.
such.
In 1973.
My crew thought my crew's pretty sure general area where it is, because they've never touched that culvert, any of them. I mean, I got a guy been here pushing 30 years.
Yeah.
They've never touched the culvert.
Yeah.
They never had to go clean it, anything. So they're pretty adamant that the line is above that culvert. They thought there was a marker out there. When the last snow melted, they went out. Of course, the meeting we had was Monday after the snowstorm, so you couldn't see crap out there.
Right.
So the guys went out, looked for it, yesterday or Monday, one of them, and, we couldn't find anything. We thought it might be at the corner marker of the cemetery. That's not uncommon, but
So the other, piece of information I got was a request for a pile of gravel to be, put on the Monmouth side of the line, whatever that is. Just so that
Yeah.
some private citizen can take matters into their own hands and take care of a public safety issue that they're concerned about.
so. I got 2 answers. One is, it's not our road.
We'd be putting it on the Monmouth side of the line.
Correct. We're putting our material that costs us money.
Yeah.
Now, granted, we have our own pit. We can go dump fill. if you guys request us to go dump a load gravel there, I got no problem doing it. I just,
For the
I
sake
don't
of,
want it to come back to say,
No, that's
you
fine.
know, that's,
I can solve this problem.
Yeah.
For the sake of keeping the peace and Peace Hill Road, I make a motion that we dump a couple, maybe 3 yards of gravel on the Monmouth side of the line, next to Peace Hill Road.
But see, my problem with that is anybody can go pick it up and bring it into their own dooryard, you know, so that's how I feel about it, is that.
well,
I don't
I
think
mean,
that would
not
happen.
that's gonna happen, but that's how, you know, it's not,
Not
you know.
much is gonna happen on Peace Hill Road that the people on Peace Hill Road don't already know.
Is there a place where you would dump it where it's actually out of the road? Because if you dump a pile of gravel in the
no,
road,
there's a spot. Now, so. Well, I wanna say.
Go ahead. Just, yeah, we're being
Well,
recorded.
what I really wanted to say. So the end of the road, if you're, the wash, I don't know how many of you have gone out there and see the washout, okay? I would put it at extremely minor. It's right at the edge where it falls off, there's a pretty good wash. A lot of that came down the, whether it's a Whippoorwill Road.
Yeah.
You know, that was part of the mitigating factor there. That way, it wasn't all because of what came down the side of the road. So. My wife, I'll say it this way, my wife has a VW bug. That she can drive up that road. I don't know if there's a lower car around, so, I mean, it's not an issue, in my opinion.
Well, my,
Up to 3 yards on my road.
But yours is a private camp road, so.
I'll still have Beverly, so.
Yeah.
well, I've done my civic duty of making the motion.
So the citizen has a tractor who can spread it around, right?
Apparently so.
I think so. I thought I saw one in his yard.
Apparently so.
I bet he'd be eager to do it.
Apparently so.
Well, yeah, Ruth Ann Smith told me, I mean, Ruth Ann goes to visit her brother who's living at the St. Leo's complex.
Mhm.
She goes every day and she finds it, she goes down there, she sees it as a safety issue, because she has to pull out, and the road is kind of blind there, coming from Litchfield. So, and she's in her 80s and it's not a good situation.
That's a line of sight issue, though,
Yeah.
that's a different.
But she has to pull out because the way the road is washed out on the right-hand side.
Of course, Whippoorwill now is like a racetrack.
Yes.
Yeah.
Yeah.
It is. Not a bump on it. Made a motion, is there a second?
I'll second it.
So. Any
Go
other
ahead,
discussion?
Larry.
is there any kind of liability here where we're putting this with the intent that a private citizen is doing work on a?
There's no intention. We're just putting a pile of gravel there.
Okay, so if something happens, you know, liability wise, he's not working on Monmouth Road. He's in Litchfield. So he's not working on our road.
But our material's getting dumped in Litchfield, so I don't know.
Nobody said that. I
Well,
just
I know,
said
but that's
there was
what's
a
gonna
request for a
happen,
pile
so-
of gravel.
Well,
that's
there's
all.
sovereign immunity, that's an exception, I mean, they can't sue us on that.
Correct. You thought I had.
I guess my only comment would just be careful when you do stuff
Exactly.
like this, because we could have other people that
Exactly.
ask for things that are, you know, at the end of their private road that,
Yeah,
oh, well, you know.
That's a private road where there's no ambiguity.
But it's not always that clear, you know, like when you drive down the Cobussy Boat Launch Road. There's a question there. They're always asking us to grade halfway down to their camps because our water runs down on, you know. So just keep that in mind. There's always gonna be somebody else that's gonna be behind somebody else who gets something that maybe they is questioned.
There's a line between being civically correct, I guess, and we all have compassion and,
Practical.
I mean,
Well-
practical sense and would like to help out people. It just,
Someone one time asked me what it's like to live in rural Maine. And I said, well, you know, there's not a whole lot of safety net in rural Maine unless you rely on your neighbors.
That's a good point.
And so here we have someone who wants to just solve a problem.
I think it's a slippery slope to, you know.
What would it take for, Litchfield to give us that property?
I think they would probably have to go to, you would have to go through their town meeting, I think.
Oh,
Yeah.
And our town meeting would have to accept it.
oh, and I think it's, yeah, you gotta go to the legislature to redraw a town line.
Oh, yeah, I guess, but not just transferring the property. I mean, we could, in theory, get into an interlocal agreement where we sign a contract. Both our town meetings could do that, where our town could just say, we're gonna take responsibility for the end of that, and in compensation, Litchfield's gonna give us $1. Something, you know what I mean? There are things like that we could do, just like you can do with fire departments, and I think we could get away with it that way. I could ask the town attorney, but I think that would be the easiest way. You're right, moving a town line is not a simple task.
It's happened.
Yeah. Across that section, the power lines.
Right.
Trying to get property to switch over, not just the road.
Right.
What it looks like. Exactly.
And while we're at it, maybe we can give away some of that Beaver Brook property to Leeds.
We're gonna trade.
I agree.
Are we supposed to,
From the where
are we supposed to walk the line, the town lines every 10 years?
See the town line according to that.
Yeah.
We're supposed to do
There's
that.
a little driveway there.
We used to have to do.
Yeah, I looked at several, Google Earth and the town tax maps and stuff. But when you get out there, it's hard to tell.
I'm not gonna be upset if I lose this vote.
I'm not gonna.
It's not gonna kill me. I don't care.
No, I don't think either one of us are trying to be upset. We just have to know what you want to do.
My-
We don't want to do it without you guys.
As my earlier comment is, the motion, and by making the motion, my public service is done.
So you vote against this at your peril, these people from Pease Hill back in here.
I've counted them up and most of them get their tax bills not in the state of Maine, so. So there's several houses out there that when you look, the tax bills go out of town, so. If they're getting their tax bills, I don't think they're gonna vote.
Uh-huh. Every time I go to church, I gotta look at Ruth Ann.
That'll do it right there.
What prevents the next dirt road people to come and ask us, you know, when Cressy Road wants a load of dirt and.
They already
this
have.
person wants a load of dirt, another person wants a load of dirt, I
But
just
their
think.
road is entirely mine.
I know, but then they wanna do, you know, somebody says, well, I'll do the work, you just give us the stuff, and I'm like, no, I don't
That'll
know.
be different.
Slippery slope.
Really different because in Monmouth, we're gonna do the work. I wouldn't
exactly.
let somebody else do it.
Well, yeah.
Even though they can't sue us. It just, it's a can of worms that we're not gonna
Exactly.
try to open up. I mean, when it boils down to it, if you said it's a 3 yards of gravel, gravel in our own pit, it's saves $10 a yard, $30 delivered, it's gonna take an hour with a truck. It's under $100 what the value is. If that helps you. Or it's almost $100. Oh, how you say it?
Worse now.
What the hell? You won't ask me back.
How expensive would it be for those folks to get their own gravel?
Almost $100.
Is that what all would be?
Well, they could probably get somebody with a 1 ton to deliver some out there for $100. Once again, I don't know why, okay, how about this? I don't know. We asked Monmouth, Litchfield, to haul 3 yards out there and dump it on their road, and we get it taken care of somehow. Whether it's when we finally go out there with a grader or they do it. I'll make the phone call. I don't, all that may just postpone what you guys have to do. But
Actually, I can tell you how much, because I did it on my road. It was supposed to be $300 a load. I had to do 2 loads because of how muddy the road was. So it normally would have been 600 for 2 loads of gravel, but because the roads are posted, it ended up being $400. So I dropped 800, my road association dropped $800 for 2 loads of gravel to just patch one area that was swallowing vehicles up. So if they just need 1 load of gravel, they're probably looking at $300.
Most of that.
I think that's probably a pretty good side dump truck.
Yeah,
I'm talking a little one time.
yeah.
So do we let him make the phone call and make sure the gravel gets there
It's in your hands.
somehow?
My motion is on the table. It's in your hands.
Joe, what'd you second?
Joe.
Well, to avoid a complete collapse at East Monmouth Community Church, I probably would vote in favor of.
So do it with a vote.
I think you kind of, yeah.
Well,
Well, it's up to you.
sure.
Call the question.
Gotta
Mr.
come.
Chair.
Gotta take the vote.
So
So,
all those in favor of,
The motion.
Darcy, you have this.
I'm just waiting for somebody to make a decision.
Oh,
3
I
yards.
made a motion, Joe seconded it to dump 3 yards of gravel on,
On the Monmouth side of the town line.
yeah,
okay,
of wherever that may
Paper
be.
Bears on the Litchfield side.
and all those in favor? All those opposed?
Oh, drama.
I'm standing by my feeling on
All right,
that.
that's good. So, thank you.
Did you, did anybody else have anything for him other than I was gonna ask him to talk about which roads potentially would be on his list for paving?
That'd be next.
Yeah.
So,
Wait, do you want me
do we
to-
have anything else to?
Oh, yeah.
Okay, we'll plan it. Do whatever you want to talk about and then we'll do that after.
Well, that was long.
Well, I told you, I've been here a while.
No, feel free, talk about whatever you want to, and then I just want to make sure.
I'm just gonna touch on gravel roads a little bit because a couple of comments that were made last week, okay? I've lived here for 30 years. We've never spent any money on our road, did it? So, the most expensive roads to maintain yearly are gravel roads, okay? So if I have to send a grader out there 4 times, roads a mile, little over a mile long. So we're there a whole day. So I just did quick calculations. I figured, well, by the time we drive there and you take out lunch and take out breaks, they're working 7 hours. $1,000 just for the grader for the day with demand. So we go out there 4 times, there's $4,000. We haven't put a rock on the road yet. No gravel, nothing. All we've done is run the grader out there. So add that up, if you pave a road and it lasts 14 years, $4,000 just for grading. Now you add on, so I was talking to my guys, they've never used a roller. You gotta to build a gravel road correctly, you grade it and you have to compaction. Compaction is everything in a road, whether you're paving it, when you're paving it, or you're maintaining a gravel road. Compaction's everything. So we have to run a roller when we go and do our major grading, reshaping, okay? These roads, if you've been on many of the gravel roads, they're all flat or they're bellied, okay? A gravel road's supposed to have a crown. 4%, a normal paved road's 2% gravel, because watershed's harder off of gravel, 4%. Cross slope. So we need a lot of material in the middle of the road. So 1.2 mile road, I just figured a 10-foot width for the center, bring it up a couple inches. That's about 400 yards of gravel. So for us to even get the gravel there, it's gonna take us 2 days. So each one of these roads that we have to revisit and get back in shape, just grading them with the gravel, very expensive. I figure in some ways around $7,000. That's including the labor, which I know is built into the budget. Yes, we have a gravel pit. We need to get the gravel tested to make sure we can compact it to the standards, because it makes no sense for us to put the gravel out there, it rains, it's in the ditch. Ditches are very expensive to maintain. I've not seen one gravel road yet that we don't have to do significant ditching on or shoulder grading to bring them back. Because if you shed in the water, it has to go somewhere. That's a whole thing of a ditch. And a ditch is designed. If this is the cross slope of the road, the ditch is supposed to be 18 to 20 inches below the level surface of the shoulder, because the gravel will drain out, so that helps you from getting all the spongy in the mud. If the water can come out the side of the bank into the ditch, that benefits. If there's no ditch there, the water can't go anywhere. Thus, you end up with just a mud pit, especially in the spring, especially in one where you get 9 inches of rain. So that's just a quick tutorial, try to help you understand maintenance of gravel roads. But when if they tell you that you've never spent any money on their road, you've spent a lot. Okay, I know it's expensive to pave. I'm gonna touch on paving, and you'll see how expensive that is. But roads are expensive. One of my lines I've given for years is, we have all kinds of benefits that we have that this town or city offers its citizens. The one thing in common, they don't need the fire department. My house never burns down and I never get in an accident. I didn't use the fire department, but I've always used the roads. So.
I didn't like that analogy.
I didn't want you to say, what about us?
Same thing we say about the school, you know? I
Correct.
don't have any kids in school, but
Yes,
the
exactly.
majority, 64% of my
Yeah.
taxes goes right across the street,
Right.
so.
But you don't have kids in school, but you go.
But I drive across the
on
road every day.
You know, it's like they said, well, you never spend any money on our road. Well, they drove somewhere in town. They use the roads,
Yeah.
you know, and roads are a safety issue. That's why we spend so much money. on it. That's why we work so hard to plow them in the snowstorm at 2 a.m. so that if Dan's crew's gotta get out there, they're able to. So I guess maybe I generated thoughts in your head about gravel roads, or if you have any questions. But I'm 3 to 5 years trying to fix the 8 miles of gravel road we have to do it, you know, soup to nuts. Because it makes no sense if we're gonna fix one, we gotta fix it. Band-Aids. What's a Band-Aid do as soon as it rains on it? Falls off your finger. Got it. So,
We've had previous, public works directors do, reports on the cost of maintaining. I still have them, maintaining gravel road. And we spent a lot of money on Cressy Road.
Yeah.
I don't know what kind of shape it's in right now, but we haven't had any complaints.
so it suffered, but it dried out fairly good. So we were able to then get a really good grading on that. Now you got me, because I'm gonna miss. I don't know, is it Pine Hill? What's the name? What's the road at the bottom? Is it Pine Hill?
Yeah.
Cressy Road at 202 and Pine Hill Road
Okay,
on
lucky
Main Street.
guess. That didn't dry out. That was, so we were unable to grade that. But they get a call.
Yeah, that one is just a bog.
That's, you know.
I almost got stuck down there one time.
And without, I haven't had to be able to get out there and give it a good assessment.
Yeah.
And look at it in a fair condition, but that might be a prime suspect to pave it at least up around the corner. So that, it doesn't suffer as bad in the spring.
It never gets any sun in the winter time.
I can see that.
Yep, that's the biggest problem with it. It
And
never,
if it doesn't, if it won't melt, it's not gonna dry out either.
Yeah.
So sidebar, pet peeve, Tony's. Over the years, trees have grown. They don't get maintained. So 30 years ago, the sun hit the road, but now that tree's gone 10 feet higher and the limbs have grown out over the road, now the sun doesn't hit the road. The sun's our friend, especially in the wintertime. And, you know, January, the sun window's so short that you don't get the benefit. You know, like tomorrow's storm, the roads are gonna clear up fairly quick. If we were having that storm in early to mid-January, whole different ballgame. I'm probably making this as clear as mud for you.
No, it's
No,
very
you're
clear,
fine.
because it's the same rationale with hayfields. You gotta cut
Okay,
your trees back from hayfields so that you can get your tractor around, but also you gotta get the sun in there, right? So that the hay will
I'll be the first to
make.
admit I know zero.
I know more about hay than I want to, right, Mark?
The road he's talking about, is Cottonwoggin Lake is at flood level. It
Oh.
runs towards that road and keeps going.
Exactly.
So it actually takes Cottonwoggin water and runs it across that road.
Well, I've seen a couple of those streams over in that, I mean, they're running.
It's crazy right
The
now.
water's high everywhere.
Oh, yeah.
And, you know, there's just no place for it to go.
You know,
I've seen the water run the wrong direction right there.
That's never good.
yes.
Tony, you said, or Justin's note said that Ken Seneca was given his notice. He's a transfer station.
Works at the transfer station. He's unable to work weekends throughout the summer because of other commitments. So I haven't given up yet. I'll just say that. But I want to let Justin know that he had given me. So if we're gonna work on a workaround, I don't know if I can make it work, but we'll try. Chuck Turner, he's retiring. He's using up his vacation time right now. But of course, we get to see his smiling face because it keeps snowing, so he's limping to retirement. So we have posted for that position. Hopefully it fills quickly because I can't say we have a huge staff.
I gotta say that the transfer station guys, pretty much all of them are doing a really good job of being super helpful.
Right.
When folks go to use the service.
Yes, I've had to deal minimally with the transfer station. And, you know, if we stay out of the paper,
That's a good thing.
that's a good thing. You know, I stop in every day they're open over there. I can't say I come out every weekend, but you know, I swing in and I talk to them and, you know, they go about their business. So I have no complaints there. And that, you know, my crew hasn't said anything that, hey, they need this or they're not doing this or that. It's all positive, which is,
Rod takes care of me. As soon as I drive in, even as soon as he sees my truck coming, he's there. I'm in my bags. He's so good. I can't get over it. I've never seen anybody quite like that.
yeah,
Amazing.
trash is it's a big issue.
Yeah.
Any community. Trash isn't cheap.
No. So tell us about your paving priorities.
All right, so, Town Farm Road, finish that, our end of that off, that's in very poor shape. Litchfield had just done their end of it, and, so I haven't, on the paving list, Okay, there was a paving list developed years ago. The rotation was seen to be set up for as close to every 7 or 8 years it's gonna happen. Herb had set that all up. I don't know, in the last 3 years, we've fallen behind. I'm sure COVID had a big issue with it. I know that, you know, right at the beginning of COVID or just before COVID, the fuel prices spiked. If you see a fuel price go up, you know pavement prices going up. I mean, I was paying in the 60s for a ton of hot mix. My estimation now is at $101. So you're doing a third for the same money. So I can give you, let's go back to Wilson Pond Road is the other road we're really looking at. That was supposed to be done, I think, 3 years ago. So the issue I've run into there is the water main going in there or not in it? So do a little digging. Okay, this thing's a lot of money. Is that gonna happen? Nobody seems to know, you know, is there gonna be grant money that'll cover the cost of it? I'm pretty sure that, what would cost ratepayers to pay for that would make having water unaffordable. So I guess if I would feel comfortable going ahead with Wilson Pond Road, knowing that, okay, that's not gonna happen in the next 5 years. It's kind of the window you generally go by. That's the state rule is you don't dig up a road you just paved. If we think that that could possibly happen, we can go from Blaisdell to back and from North Main to Old Lewiston. So we could do those ends. And, cause, it's either south or west of Back Street towards the gravel end. That has been done in the last 5 or 6 years, so that's in reasonably good shape. Old Lewiston Road in poor shape. Academy Road is a road that we'd get good benefit out of paving it because you're getting bang for your dollar that's not as in bad a shape. As soon as they get to a level of that you have to use if the road's like this, it takes a lot of mix. You have to shim that to fill that. Or you're gonna have it in the next ride as soon as you put a layer mix in the truck forward. It's just the science of it. So it's kind of, where's Wilson Pond Road going with water and
So to give you an update on the water main proposal project. We had some engineering done, discovered that the project would cost about $7 million. Maybe a little more. There's a lot of contingency in that. That was about a year ago. So prices might have changed a little bit since then. Of that $7 million proposal, we've found about $2 million, maybe $2.5 million that's committed, hard dollars. There are 2 other grants that we know of right now that would bring the total to another $2.5 million. One of the possibilities is to partner with the town to take the paving cost out of that project because paving was part of the original $7 million proposal.
Right.
So if there's a way to coordinate with the town so that paving is not part of the project, then there could be some savings there. And then there's also the potential for additional grants in the pipeline, potentially through Maine State Legislature to finish the gap.
so I've just heard about PFAS and I know it's bad. Is there federal money
There's,
that, I would think that if there's federal money for something, that would be
That would be
kind
one
of
of them.
important.
yeah, so there's
That
some,
might-
there's some infrastructure money that's on the table.
Yeah.
There's, that's got potential. We know that we could, borrow the money. Some of that money has been made available to borrow. At like 0% interest or 1% interest rates. But to borrow the entire amount would not be viable. Because the ratepayers wouldn't be able to afford the debt service. So we've got to find some grants to make whatever is borrowed a small enough amount so that people can afford it.
Right.
It's got to be affordable, and we can't mandate it. It's not going to be a mandatory thing. And what's currently happening, just for, you know, for anyone who hasn't familiarized themselves with it, is that we have, as a stopgap measure, we've got some filtration going on well by well. You know,
Yeah,
something
I
like
read
40 different
some of that
systems.
before.
Yeah, 40 different systems are being filtered at the expense of Tex Tech. So is there potential if we relieve Tex Tech of some of that expense? Is there a potential that maybe they would participate in helping us finish, you know, get to the closing the budget gap? There's possibility there. We're about a third of the way there in terms of financing. And so that water main system would be down North Main Street. There might be, there is designed a loop that goes up New Street, comes back around to Wilson Pond, hangs a downhill turn on Wilson Pond, crosses the bridge, goes up a ways to Blaisdell Hill, and then back to 202 down Blaisdell. So that would be the path. And if there's a way for that project to collaborate with the town in terms of paving, then there might be some significant, I mean, that's probably, I don't know, a couple miles, mile and a half of paving that that the project would not have to pay for if the town could collaborate with us on it.
So Blaisdell's on the short list anyway.
Yeah.
North Main could use paving, New Street is bad. He's ripped up anyway. It's
Yep.
horrible.
Yep.
So. Yes, that I would think. Gonna pave it anyway. You know, a lot of times, towns will rely on, oh, they're digging it up anyway, they gotta pave it, but. Doesn't have to work that way.
Right.
So. Much great news as I've already given you. Just a calculation on paving, so, takes about 1,000 tons, this is just rough math, 1,000 tons to do a mile. You shim it for a half inch, you put in an inch overlay over that, and you got a pretty good smooth riding road, it's gonna last for a while. So 1,000 tons at $101 a ton adds up, so, if you're giving me $250,000, I can pave 2.4 miles. So we need close to 640,000 a year if you wanted to maintain the 7-year rotation, which is unreasonable. I'm just telling you what the numbers are. If you figure 10 years, you know, you're still gonna be up around 500,000, so. And Monmouth is no different than any other town. Roads need paving, paving's expensive, and then when it comes time to, we got a budget. And we have X increase and the citizens are not interested in X increase. How do we cut our budget? How can we cut a chunk of money out of our budget. Well, there's always that great big, the biggest number in there is paving. So that's what happens and, you know, it's reality. So it's not like we're in a different situation, but roads are expensive now and good roads are, once you get them good, they're a lot easier to maintain. I mean, there's some roads out there that we could look at chip sealing, which is, you shim them and you put a emulsified liquid down and they put stone over it and they roll it in. That's good on country roads. It wears well. It has some life to it. You can buy time. So if you have roads that they're getting up to that 6 or 7 year mark, but they're not a horrible ride, you can buy a lot of time that way. It's just options. I'm trying to tell you all the options of what we have.
I appreciate you bringing all these choices to us, and I would suggest that if any of those residents that live on North Main Street, that stretch of Wilson Pond, or on New Street, you know, if they are upset with the road conditions, then we could say to them, look, help is on its way, but we've got to put the water main in first to get you safe drinking water in your neighborhood. And then we're going to do the maintenance on the roads.
What do you see as a timeline for getting?
The two grants that we know of, that would, potential grants that we know of, that amount to about $2.5 million are available this year. So we would have to apply. We are applying, and we will have news this year on the additional $2 million. Just to give you an idea, the town has invested $100,000 of our ARPA money to get the ball rolling with an engineering pre-design work.
We haven't had that done.
It is. That engineering pre-design work was super useful in convincing Senator Collins to earmark $500,000. That check is in the mail. The $500,000 is going to arrive
October maybe.
yeah, sometime this summer, I think it might be June or July. There's also, we've received a verbal, and I think it might be actually a written commitment from the USDA for an additional $2 million for this year toward the project through the state government. So it's federally funded, but administered by the state of Maine. And then we've got 2 additional grant opportunities where we've gotten signals from the grantees that our project would be looked upon favorably. And that there's another potential $2 to $2.5 million.
For total of,
That would put us at $4.7 million out of a $7 million budget. Now, originally, that $7 million budget included 2 miles of curb to curb paving, which by my estimate is, it's like $250,000. That would be super helpful if we could say, we don't need to fundraise the additional $250,000 because the town's going to schedule paving at a time when we can avoid that cost.
so where does it leave us? Like, when will this go in, actually happen?
I think we're looking at next year, potentially. So 2025 is a reasonable timeframe. Some of that is going to be contingent on the grants that are being applied for now. So I would suggest that we put Wilson Pond, that stretch of Wilson Pond, New Street and Blaisdell Hill on hold for now. And if we do get complaints, then there's an explanation. We're kind of doing that intentionally, and it's for the benefit of that neighborhood.
Understanding that PFAS thing.
Sure.
That's right.
Sure. And if there are other parts of Wilson Pond that need some attention, and if there are, if there's a short stretch of North Main Street that is super well traveled by everybody, like that stretch between 202 and Old Lewiston Road, then, it's a
Yeah,
small,
that's the piece that I had.
Yeah. that's a small piece of North Main Street. I would go ahead and just deal with it. And move and redirect, move farther down the list of priorities. Be my suggestion.
Tony, what do you think about, crack sealing?
Very beneficial.
Is it worth the investment? I mean, will it prolong the
Yeah.
life of these roads, especially moving to salt
Yeah.
priority? You're putting a lot more
Yes.
water down the
So,
cracks and.
There's a misnomer, some of it is a misnomer about crack sealing, because there's some roads you look at a road and it's all full of cracks. Does no good. I mean, it's just, once it's all alligated up. But you have, cross cracking or longitudinal that you can seal up to get the water off the surface of the road. Especially roads that are 2-3 years, you're gonna extend the life of them. The rule of thumb is keep your good roads good, pick away at your bad ones. Because your horrible ones are horrible already. And you can chew up a lot of money. Some of those you just have to reclaim them where you full depth grind all the pavement, you rebuild the road base and you put 3 inches of mix down. Is the only way you're gonna to fix it. Everybody's seen where I go and pave Kent's Road and 2 years from now, it's all cracked. It's got wheel ruts. It rides like a buckboard. And everybody's unhappy and they know well, geez, that road costs $80,000. What's wrong with it? Well, it's all based on what's underneath it.
Do it right the first time.
Well, what's the old Fram oil filter commercial? You pay now or pay later.
That's right.
Paying later costs more.
Yeah,
I mean, everybody knows what inflation is. It's crazy. What's coming down the road, fuel tax is supposed to pay for roads that more electric vehicles and at some point, money's gotta come from somewhere for the traveling public. Or you want that? Yeah, no.
No, we got one more for you.
Yeah, no problem. No, I'll take all
I
you.
have a question. Circling back to a discussion topic that we had in December when the loader had to go out and be completely redone. We had talked about, and I'm sure you've already implemented this, but just to appease myself, having a maintenance schedule, okay, this vehicle needs this, then now blah, 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 and having a set maintenance schedule to help avoid those things in the
So-
future.
I've made it perfectly clear. With our crew, what my expectations are, and the line I gave them is, this tube of grease costs, used to cost $3, about $7 now. That $7 tube of grease goes a long ways compared to a bearing that's gonna take $30,000 to fix, so.
Yeah.
I'm happy so far. I think our mechanic is very capable. So we've started, picking off some of the stuff and I don't wanna say stuff that speaks ill of anybody before me, okay? So with a grain of salt, I go in the building, the salt building, and I see a wood chipper, a grinder. I'm like, geez, that's the nicest grinder I've seen all my years of usually they're all beat up and yeah, we didn't use that last year. So, we hauled it out. We had a rainy day. We got it all serviced, changed all the filters. Things ready to go. We got some You know, you see all the, when you see alders growing in the ditch, that's not a good thing. So. You know, just, we do have some pretty good equipment. The loader is coming to the end of its life, where it's like a plow truck. You need it when you need it. And Murphy's Law is it breaks when you need it. So, you know, it's how long do you want to gamble? I think we talked about putting it off 1 or 2 years, just because there's other stuff.
And we've put that money into it.
Yeah.
So it's like, you gotta kind of get
We're
something
gonna
that's,
get some, we're gonna get some life
Yeah.
out of it. Cause yeah. It's just like, if you go to, you're gonna trade in your car and you put $1,000 worth of tires on it. You're not getting 1,000 back when you go trade it. You might get 300. So you drive your car and use the tires up a little bit before you trade it.
Yes.
Taking on a road trip.
Yeah.
Yeah.
So, yes, I'm very aware of the loader situation. I looked at our grader, I think we're in pretty good shape there. I can't, you know, I mean, something could happen. It's fairly old, but it's,
It's
You know, to
equipment that gets used.
replace
so-
that.
Exactly.
you know,
So,
that's a $250,000 to $280,000 piece of equipment new, so. You can do some repairs on those stuff.
yeah.
Can we talk a little bit about the salt shed proposal? So, our warrant in front of us has an article that wants to that would suggest to the voters to authorize borrowing $750,000. How did we come about that number? And, can you give us an idea of the cost benefit for that?
I got the number from Rob Prue from Pine Tree Engineering. It was before he was here, so he doesn't know where that number came from. That's where it came from. It's been escalating every year that it's been put off. So he said, I think 750 would be enough. In the MMA magazine this month.
Yes.
Holden just built one for 829, which is about the size that we're looking at. So,
Okay.
you know, I think it
I
depends.
think
How
there's
you
some
bid it out.
options that
Maybe
we're
make it
getting
less.
help getting built.
Yep.
I'll let you in on that
Yeah.
later. Whoa.
And Justin, can you, just for the sake of the public record, can you give us an idea of the process for making sure that the town gets its money's worth when we build that salt shed?
So anything that's that expensive, that's a public building like that has to be engineered. So we have to have an engineered stamp drawing from somebody like Rob Prue in order to put the bid out. He usually manages that bid process for us, and we would clearly go through a bid process. Either for the materials or the building of it, or whatever it was that ended up happening.
How many bids do we usually require in order to?
If it's a sealed bid, it's, we get what we get, and then you guys decide whether to accept it.
And what's typical?
On something like that, I don't know. I've never built one of these things.
And I've only been involved in building one. I can explain why it's so expensive. So it's a big building. Gotta be able to dump a truck inside of it, so that's why they're so tall. It's gotta have concrete walls. I mean, it does us no good to dump raw material inside and you're just gonna break it, so they're fairly thick walls too. You know, they're designed to be durable for the aspect of what they're in. You know, either you have paved base or concrete base, you know, it has to be impervious. That's a law to build one. And then you asked about the value of it. Are you just talking about the building, or do you know the value of salt?
No, as it was described to us, I don't know, that might have been a year and a half ago. There's a substantial reduction in sand and a small increase in salt that we would expect.
So there is an increase in salt. One of the key aspects of when you're putting the equipment, you gotta have the right equipment to put it out, you know, and I can't say that all our trucks are geared up for salt. They can be retrofitted to work. Any truck that I buy will be set up for salt priority. So if we buy 3,000 yards of salt and we put that out on the streets, that's going somewhere. Some of it gets pulverized up and it's dust up in the clouds, it's on grandma's windows and gotta get washed. A huge amount of it goes right into our ditches. And so one of the biggest expenses of sand is gotta go fix everything after. I know, we're trying to figure out how many catch basins we have in town. We've got several that haven't been maintained at all for eons, apparently. Those have a purpose. They're there to catch sediment from going into our waterways. If they're already full, it's just run off and it goes to where we don't want it to go anyway. So that part's very expensive on the sand side, is what does it do to our ditches? You know, everybody gets it all over their lawn, they're not happy about that. You see the roadside shoulders. So if the shoulder comes off and there's a hump and everybody thinks that that's just from plowing, a very good example is little homework assignment, when you're driving around, look at guardrails, okay? You'll see all the grass and the dirt built up underneath the guardrail. Well, the water can't get off the road like it's supposed to there because all that sand's stopping it. There's another negative side of sand to our road. Plus, we gotta sweep it. You know, sweep the roads out. There's a lot to picking up the sand. So sand's expensive. Salt's obviously cheaper. In the long run, because roads clear up quicker, better on the shady roads. You know, everybody's changed over. The expectations, and the DOT did this to everybody, every town. There's an expectation. It doesn't matter. There's gonna be people out tomorrow morning at 7 o'clock when it's snowing sideways, you can't see. But the expectation is the road's cleared so they can get to where they wanna go. They wanna go to Cumberland Farms, pick up a coffee and a donut and come home. They're gonna do that. That was a police. That wasn't you.
Right, it's crazy. It's nuts.
So, you know, I remember when the state never closed and that was the pain. Now it's, when night snow, they close, so that's good. You know, they already canceled school. We don't have to deal with that headache in the morning. So, you know, I'm very high on the benefits of salt, if that's. And I can get you all kinds of literature on it, if you like to read it.
Oh, no, I think we've all seen the DOT presentation. And I think the fact that we had a unanimous vote of support for putting this on the warrant after having a conversation about salt sheds for about, what do you think, Dave, last 25 years? It's finally, as far as I'm concerned, it's finally time that we make a long-term investment in getting sand off the road so that we can, you know, long-term, save some time, money, energy.
Yeah, benefits are long ranging.
Yep.
That MMA article. You get a chance, read that MMA article, because I read it. There were two you should read in there, because there's also one in there from Matt Dunlap and audits. So read both of those, because you'll get a ton of information. They were both timely articles.
Is that in the magazine?
Yeah.
Yes, yeah. I mean, there was a really good one, and it gave you the link to go on to the state website to where they have everything spelled out of what has to happen for
So
salt sheds, so.
we'll always need sand as long as we have as many gravel roads as we have, because when those get icy, salt does absolutely zero for them. You know, it just makes a hole through the ice and then you got mud and then it freezes right back up. So we'll always have the need for some sand. But small quantity compared to, you know, will the salt budget line go up? Absolutely. We're gonna buy less sand. But
Would be a wash. Justin, have we heard anything more from DEP about their investigation of the complaint from one of our neighbors that about salt, our use of salt storage,
No.
current storage of salt?
No, as far as I know, they've just gone away. They never did anything. I don't know if they said they were gonna come take a look. That's as far as I ever heard.
We've tried to mitigate
Oh, yeah.
in the past. Yeah, down here. Obviously watershed.
Yeah, yeah.
Dave,
I have a question for Tony. If we go to sole priority, does that do anything with road maintenance? You mentioned crack sealing, and does that move that up higher, or salt doesn't do any more damage to roads than just normal wear and tear?
so I guess I wouldn't say it does no damage. Cause, you know, you're liquefying the ice. That's gotta go, so where cracks hurt you. Get a storm, we get them all nice and wet, we're all happy. Wind blows, they're dried off and looks great. Sun comes out the next day, water, snow melts, it runs down the road, gets in the crack. Gets cold the next night, freezes up, ice expands, that's what moves the road. So. Wouldn't the tying ice control with salt to crack sealing is a bit of a reach, I guess. You know, done right, both of them are very beneficial. You know,
It's not gonna cost us more because we're going to sole priority on road repair.
correct. Oh, it should cost less. Quick sidebar on crack sealing. Crack sealing is one of those where if we could get 2 or 3 communities buy a crack sealer. Each town buys the product that they use. And my thought has always been, and I've had this work for me before. You know, we buy a piece of equipment that costs $20,000. We got 3 communities involved, $7,000 a piece. And then for a couple of years, we just put money into an account for repairs if it needs to be made, because it does no good if Tony was using it. Mark's not gonna help pay for it. Well, you gotta have an agreement right up front, but that's one of the pieces of equipment that communities can share. So I know we're already sharing a sweeper. I've talked to Matt and I see no issues there, so I think that would be beneficial. So that's nothing that's gonna happen this year. I mean, we need this equipment that we do need.
Like a striper, you said would be a
Well,
good
I was
idea.
gonna touch on striping too. Road striping. We did a little bit of an inventory over the last couple of weeks. I mean, we have some roads that haven't been striped 2 or 3 years. The whole purpose of road safety is road painting is driver safety. You get on a backcountry road where there's high speed. You have the fog line, which is the white line on the edge, outside edge of the pavement, then you have the double yellow line. And people depend on that when it's foggy. We got a lot of water around us. We have foggy times. You know, I grew up next to the river. You know, especially at night, wet night, or a freshly paved road night where it's really black. You know, it's one of them tools that shouldn't be skimped on, I guess is. And then you have crosswalks, which is very high priority. Getting those painted is.
And you thought the
Those should get
crew could do
paid,
those,
right? Huh?
You thought you guys could.
We can
transition to doing those.
absolutely do that in-house.
Yeah,
The paint machine is $7,000.
What have we been paying contracted for? I mean, I know some of the
It's
striping.
not so much that it's pricey, it's just that they can't get it done timely.
Yes.
So obviously you want to have
The
the,
handwork, yeah. It doesn't,
like
so.
in the fall, you want
I guess-
the crosswalk lit up for the kids when.
An
they're not
example, it does us
in-
no good to paint the crosswalks next to the school in June, July.
Yeah.
You know, if we could get out there as soon as the road's warm enough for the paint to dry. So the paint has come a long ways. It's all water-based paint now. It literally, if you have some sun hitting it, dries in minutes, not hours. We all see what happens when somebody drives over a wet line as a track. Drives me nuts. I'm a little bit of, so, you know, there's some things that small things, there's money tied to them, but there's things that I see that we can do that's gonna benefit us. And, you know, safety, I've done a sign inventory. I just bought some street signs. You'll notice when they go up, trust me. Some stop signs, non-reflective. There's 2 stop signs, right here. Where the road splits, non-reflective stop signs. I mean, those aren't safe and they're not legal anymore. So, you know, I bought stop signs. We're gonna fix them and stop snowing.
Not that anybody pays attention to the crosswalks anyway, because when you're standing in one, that means speed up.
You know.
Maybe that's just when you're in.
Yeah, exactly.
They are signed pretty well.
Yes,
I think
yeah.
I've noticed a couple where where there's a sign missing or didn't get put up that will address. You will, so when did these 2 blinkers go up? The
Just,
two-
they
the school
were
zone,
like the-
that's gotta be fairly new.
Yeah, they
They're
were
right
about-
behind them, and I'm talking this far behind them.
Yeah,
Is the sign that says school zone, and it has the times on it, you can't even see it.
yeah,
So we're gonna remove those, because the blinking light's what does the job, that's
yeah.
what people see.
They've only been up for probably a year or so.
Mhm.
Yeah, about a year. I think it was both, spring last year they went up or something like that.
You probably put them up to replace the old signs, you just never took down. the
Correct.
signs.
Yeah.
Yeah. You're, you know,
Thank you, Tony.
Thank you.
I guys, you're happy, I'm happy. And, you know,
We appreciate a breath of fresh air.
anything that, you know, send Justin a question if you got it for me, I'm always available. Email me, call me.
I've already emailed him and he was Johnny on the spot.
Don't put
So,
that pressure on.
yeah.
The next one will be 3 days later. I stretched it out till you got here.
Just so you know, I was 10 minutes, he was an hour. There's a storm coming, so try to keep it short.
Go home, Tony. You're gonna have a long day tomorrow, I think.
Yes, I am. Oh, not bad.
You wanna say anything?
I really have, not a lot to report on. I'm unprepared tonight because we just pulled me away, but, we had our public supper last Sunday and it went very well, good attendance. We had 70, served 90, so.
I think you set a record for community supper down there.
Not according to
We
them.
did.
Oh.
We had 92.
Oh.
According to Gail, we set the record.
We're counting staff.
Yeah, we
Probably have more.
didn't count still.
So, it was a good turnout. Appreciate those who came. Like I said, a lot of people from the public in town here show up. I thought it was a good turnout by the PD staff, both Winthrop and Monmouth. Helped serve and brought meals and we didn't have a whole lot of leftovers, but we had enough, so it worked out well. I just want to thank Donna for organizing that, pulling it together, and pulling her hair out with all of us.
I sleep.
So basically that's all I have tonight, unless you guys have any questions. Thank you.
Thank you.
I ate up all.
See how easy that is?
See, I should have gone behind you. All right,
Thanks, Tony.
Thank you, Tony.
Be safe tomorrow.
thank you.
Mark,
Justin. do you
Well,
have
I'll just
report?
do, so I don't spend so much time, as you'll see on our website, our notifications widget is up there. It's a little thing on the town website where you can just click sign up and you can add your cell phone number, and we're gonna slowly roll out what this can do for us, but it'll have a notification system that will train everybody. The department heads will find out more about it next week at our meeting, but it is up there, so people can start signing up and we'll start using it once we know how to use it, but we can start collecting the phone numbers. The system has the ability to answer certain questions automatically. So if you were to write in like a word like election to it, it will take you to the town's election webpage. If you ask for like the hours of the town hall, it can respond to you and do that automatically. The ones that it doesn't know, we can set up groups so that it will direct questions that it can't answer on its own to the appropriate person using keywords. So if somebody says something about trash or whatever, it'll send that to Tony to deal with, or whatever it might be. That's just. They've set up a lot of that stuff in a basic format, but it's really up to kind of staff to kind of realize what's being asked and what can it ask and what doesn't it understand for us to put in the right keywords based on our own community. So that'll be interesting. As I know more, like I told you in my little note to you last week, I'll inform you more about how that is. But just if anybody asks what that is, it's at first it'll just be a public notification system, and then we'll roll out the other features as we get to it. Just leave it at that.
Jamie's doing well at the custodian.
Yes, everybody likes him. I think he's a very nice guy. He's always happy. He smiles all the time. He's doing just the custodial stuff. He's basically just cleaning the buildings. We're paying him the same number of hours that the company was doing. And that's what he's doing. He's not really a maintenance man. He comes in at night. He has a full-time job on the side. So he does another 20, he works 40 hours somewhere and he works for us another 24 hours a week. And he's been doing that for years through our cleaning company. So he was happy. He hadn't heard from any of his bosses since last November. So he likes the idea that someone will tell him what they need, and that, that he still works for him on an occasional basis.
When the time comes.
Yep.
Which is whenever the warm season finally breaks and the snow is cleared, could we make sure that the restrooms at the boat launches are on his list?
That's actually on Tony's list.
Okay.
He's aware of it. He's also had a conversation with Dan about what's needed at the beach party. Because Public Works is again gonna take that 4th of July week off, but he's informed the crew that that somebody's gonna have to go down there one of those days or late that week, so that everything is all set for the beach party.
Okay.
So we've already had those conversations.
So when Jamie's on vacation, or does he take vacation?
He never has.
He never has, so.
He's
that was
certainly
my only
eligible
question.
for it, so we'll have to figure out, there are certain things that I know that, that like Dennis would be happy to do
Yeah.
on a short-term
Yeah.
basis, and we'll just have to communicate
Yeah.
that with everybody. I mean, I could take out the trash, and
Mhm.
certain things just might not happen for a couple of days, but
Yeah.
yeah. Everybody's been very happy with him, like the little tests that, Dennis or the library or Julie would do at the library with like a fly in the corner. We're not finding the flies anymore now that Jamie's been doing it, so we're all happy about that. And if you ever see him around, he's always smiling. He's a very nice guy.
Is that the heavy set guy?
Yes, it is.
Yeah, I saw him this week. I mean, he was so nice.
Oh, yeah,
He
he's-
smiled. Hi.
Yeah, it's very nice. It's very pleasant. He'll do just about anything you ask him to, even though it's not really his thing, but he will. If you need him to help move something, he'll do it.
Okay, select board reports.
I had one question about, on the 31st of March, in my email, I got an accounts payable warrant. It was dated 1/24.
Yeah, so there would have been a little note there. So like I kind of mentioned in my memo, so Royer is not doing that work anymore. So what happened is during the transition, she doesn't have copies of your signed warrants for those weeks. So she's trying to make sure that she has them in the file so that when we have our audit for this particular year, that we will have the signed copy. So that's what it is. So it's something you've already signed, but because it's DocuSign, it got overlooked during the switch. She can't find them, so she's asking for them.
How is Casey doing?
Today we got down, I sent, I think we were down to like 12 items. I sent all 12 of them today. He spent all of last week working on us. His email today was, I think we're just about there. I think we can have this one signed and out the door by the end of the month. So that's not Casey, that's Zach. Casey is a big shot now. He only signs off on them when they're done. So we're dealing with an underling, if you will, but we're getting there.
Did you go to the school board meeting?
I did, last night. It was a good meeting. Not many people there. I was kind of surprised. The Hollow town manager or city manager was there. And then there were other town officials, few, very few actually. And Rick just does a great job explaining why the budget has gone up for Monmouth for $450,000. And it's a lot of the stuff is legally mandated that we have to do. I don't know if they're unfunded for the RSU, but they may be. I don't know what else I can say. We've seen budget.
I didn't have a chance to go to that meeting, but I went to the workshop that was here at the middle school last week sometime to talk about some of the needs and wants and the smaller amount of things they were willing to part with. And I, at that point, made it clear to them that if because our funding sources come from property tax paying folks who don't necessarily have a means for paying increases, that they need to dial things back a bit. And they heard me.
I think they have.
I don't know if things have changed since that workshop, but they had about $750,000 worth of wants and only about $450,000 worth of things they were willing to part with. So I nicely asked them to sharpen their pencils.
Well, you probably have the let's see.
What is it?
What
number?
Well,
what number? The number of the Monmouth taxes, I mean, our contribution to the RSU is increasing by 450,000.
From?
The RSU,
It's just the increase from the RSU.
which is a,
We got 450, 750, 700. All this in 1 year?
Don't forget the county tax.
And the county tax all in one? This wallet's empty.
Well, the county tax in the schools, a lot of, besides some of the spending increases, we're also being clobbered by state valuation. We are the wealthiest town in our school system
yes.
by a long shot. And our state valuation and our state, oh yes, because it's because of the water.
Yeah.
Our land values are extremely high and they are going up at a rate much faster than our surrounding communities. So we're getting a larger and larger share of the county tax in the school budget. And that's how these funding formulas work.
Dresden's gone up 10%. We've gone up 7.18. Actually, our increase is, well, next to Hollowell, the lowest increase.
Right, with the budget wise, right, as a
Yeah.
percentage, yeah.
But we will be paying 500 and $53,000 a month.
Then we can use the buildings.
We can use it. That's right. Big asset for us.
Yeah. It's all right. As I've said before, when you have to fill out a permission slip to use something that you pay that much for, it kind of doesn't sit well, so.
Bubbles burst.
My father told me that that would get better when I remember 40. I don't know.
Better or worse? What is better?
Well, it could be a lot worse. I have gotten better. I can sort of turn the filter on. I don't have much of a poker face.
Oh, I have a question for the trustees of Compton Park,
Yes, sir.
because I did go to a trail meeting. Meeting about trails with, actually, this one was the age-friendly committee
Yes.
had a meeting on trails. And the idea had been floated to create a trail system that a trail loop that would integrate this playground that's behind this building, make it a little more convenient for people who want to walk around Compton Park and perhaps in this neighborhood in general. Are there any deed restrictions that would prevent creating a trail on the fairgrounds property?
I think from being at that meeting last Wednesday, when the age friendly and the things that they talked about, the two different programs that are available. The program that, the Academy project is working with, that encumbers the space, like this is encumbered, this existing playground is encumbered. So that type of program we can't do on Compton Park, because we can't encumber that because of Dr. Compton's will. But that other program that would allow trails to be made on like the old apple orchard, or that's something, because it is just an agreement where it's, not encumbered, and then it can go away or it can be maintained or whatever. If it goes away, nothing becomes of it,
Right.
I think that's something that Compton Park could entertain
Excellent, okay.
as that. We've always said, yes, people are more than welcome to go walk there at any point in time.
Right.
But to have something encumbered, I think that, that's another story.
Well,
So,
it sounds to me like the second program,
The second
it's a state-sponsored program.
yes.
It requires a certain percentage of match, like
Yes.
20%
Yeah.
of match. That particular program
Not
sounded
as restrictive.
not as restrictive, and actually that match could be in form of
Like,
volunteer labor, Eagle Scouts that want to put
Yeah.
time in, or community members who just want to volunteer for a certain number of hours. All of that gets counted as, the local
Yeah.
contribution to. So if we're looking for like a funding program that would cover material costs or cover, machinery to spread the material to create the path or regrade so that the path is level, all of that sounds like a pretty easy thing.
And I think the biggest thing as Compton Park, we were supposed to have our meeting tomorrow night for the Compton Park users, but I think that's gonna get postponed, but anyway. It would be a perimeter trail, because it can't come, onto the space where,
I wouldn't expect, yeah.
Exactly.
You
And
want
that's
people
where you would be on
outside
the
and away
outer-
from the
From
infrastructure.
where out
No,
from
that's
where the fair would set up, or an event would set up, or where the soccer fields are. Things like
So just to dovetail on that, while I was at this RSU two workshop, I mentioned to our superintendent that there was this meeting of the minds on trails, and there's some wooded space behind both of the school buildings where there's trail potential, and they sounded very willing to collaborate with the Trails Committee to do something that would cross the property line, that would allow access. They want to see some sort of written agreement so that everything's on paper. And that same funding source could be used to cover, the costs that volunteers couldn't cover.
There used to be trails back there.
Oh, yeah.
Oh, yeah, we did cross-country back there.
Yes, yeah.
Uh,
On potential there.
Of course, yeah, yeah, and I think some of that is also owned by the Water Association
Yeah.
back there. So I think there,
No, I think when we bought the land from the water, we bought all the
Doesn't have
land.
anything over there anymore.
no longer. So who owns that
The
old parcel?
RSU,
RSU owns it completely.
Yeah.
Okay,
they bought a lot of land.
so there's a lot of potential there. And I'm optimistic about that.
Anything else for the select board?
Justin, did you hear anything from Reagan, Rochelle, on the potential for using economic development TIF money for funding some of the line items that are currently general funded?
Yeah, so I did that. I adjusted some of the numbers in here. To reflect that. So I took 10% of my salaries over there now and 10% of the assessor's salaries over there. You cannot use it for operating costs for the fire department. You can only use it for certain specific equipment that's attached to a development. So say we had a factory come in, I guess the easiest example, when they built the Ultra Hall in Bath, we were able to buy a good chunk of the ladder truck in the TIF fund because they didn't have a vehicle that could reach the top of it. So it has to be something that's attached to development. So I didn't do anything with that, but I did, and the what's reflected in front of you has that. So thank you for bringing that up because I would have skipped right over it.
So what that is some strategic use of TIF money instead of general fund money, because TIF money has sort of a 2x value to it, because we don't have to pay a share to the county or to the RSU with TIF money. And because we're exempt on TIF money there, when we shift the funding source from general fund to TIF, then there's a net savings, net benefit to the town.
Yep, you got that. No, perfect, correct. No, I don't say anything.
Anything else pop in there? No? All right, on to consider an abatement request from G&G Associates.
You want me to read her memo or you all seen it?
Yeah.
You all
I don't know, we need to,
Can you give us a quick summary?
Yeah.
Just for the public record?
Yep. So there was a mobile home that was assessed in error. It was assessed for the mobile park owner and it actually belongs to somebody else. Normally, there would be a supplement to go along with the abatement, but when it was owned by the park, it couldn't have a homestead exemption and now it does. So the homestead eats up all the value. So there is no supplement. It's just a straight abatement.
I make a motion, we approve the abatement request from G&G map 20 lot 4-15.
second. So the motion by Chris, second by Joe to approve the abatement request from G&G Associates. And I'll let you put in the map. All those in favor? Thank you. And then to consider an abatement request, Christopher and Kimberly Brown.
This was one that they had pulled a building permit to do some renovations in there, and it had been some years, and when Donna went down to inspect it, she looked in the window and it looked finished, so she assessed it, they came back, asked her to come out, it's not done, so she's abating the unfinished portion of the home.
I make a motion, we approve the abatement request from Christopher and Kimberly Dow, map 19, lot 12.
Second.
So the motion by Chris, second by Ken, to approve the abatement request from Christopher and Kimberly Brown. All those in favor? Thank you. And consider the 2024 town warrant.
I know I usually just read these, is that the protocol? I just want to make sure before I start reading them, if that's how you'd like to proceed. Start with number 2. Elect the following: 1 select board member for a 3-year term, 1 director of the RSU2 board for a 3-year term, 2 Compton Library trustees, each for 3-year term, 1 sanitary district trustee for a 3-year term. Shall the town, just stop me if you have any questions, okay? I'll just keep going. Shall the town vote to appropriate $10,000 from the unassigned fund balance to fund the senior citizens property tax assistance program, for which provides refunds up to $500 to those who are 65 years of age and have been a resident of town for 10 years? Shall the town raise and appropriate $1,347,550 for general administration? Administration, $532,204, assessing $41,380, elected officials, $16,432, employee benefits, $543,615, risk management, $60,000, boards and committees, $48,046, code enforcement, $44,166, and municipal building, $61,707. Shall the town appropriate $200 from the Compton Prize Fund and raise and appropriate the sum of $54,301 for a total of $54,501 for the below listed community services? Cemetery care, $35,000, general assistance, $4,915. Compton Prize Fund, $200, American Red Cross, $500, KV Cap, transportation, $800, family violence, $1,125. Memorial Day services, $700, senior spectrum, $2,595, $150 for the food bank, RCAM, $5,500, Kennebec Behavioral Health, $1,000, Tri-County Mental Health, $500, Maine General Hospice, $500, and Life Flight for $1,016. 6, shall the town authorize the additional donation of municipal employee time and materials for the care of the North Monmouth Beach during the summer swim season, including lawn mowing, trash removal, sanitary facilities, and the payment of half of the property's liability insurance? Shall the town raise and appropriate $472,845 for law enforcement / police protection? Police Department, $464,638, and animal control, $8,207. Shall the town raise and appropriate $194,383 for fire protection? Shall the town raise and appropriate $231,844 for public safety services? Ambulance services, $80,031, dispatch services, $87,048, fire hydrants, $61,765, and streetlights, $3,000. Article 10, shall the town raise and appropriate $118,003 for Compton Hall operating expenses? Article 11, shall the town raise and appropriate $105,209 for the Compton Public Library? Shall the town raise and appropriate $91,969 for parks and recreation programs? Shall the town raise and appropriate $1,246,381 for public works accounts? Public Works, $813,251. Transfer Station, $413,630. Other Public Works, $19,500. Other Public Works includes parking lot rent, $100. milfoil inspections, $18,900, and Woodbury Pond dam maintenance, $500. Shall the town raise and appropriate $511,796 for debt retirement and debt service? Debt retirement, $409,363, debt service, $102,433. Article 15, to see if the town will authorize the select board upon a majority vote of the select board to exceed by no more than 10% annually the amount authorized for each account approved in Article 4 through Article 14 above, so long as the overall amount spent for the sum total of those articles does not exceed the total appropriations approved for those articles. Article 16, shall the town vote to authorize select board to enter into a 3-year lease purchase agreement for a police cruiser for the police department and raise and appropriate $18,500 for the first annual payment? Shall the town vote to authorize select board to enter into a lease purchase agreement for the purpose of replacing the HVAC system in Cumston Hall and making energy efficiency upgrades and raise and appropriate $36,000 for the first annual payment? And to authorize the select board to make all necessary action to apply for and accept a rebate from Efficiency Maine in an estimated amount of $96,000.
On that question, does anyone else feel that we should put the total amount of this project in there? So people know what because there's no time frame there saying we're gonna appropriate $36,000 for the first payment. But it doesn't say, are we doing this for 10 years, 5 years, 40 years? And the total amount that's gonna be paid for the project?
I'm agreeable to that as long as we put the savings, the expected savings along with it.
I can just suggest something. You could say raise and appropriate 36,000 for the first of blank annual payments. I could do
Yeah.
that, and then people could kind of do the math.
Yeah.
And can we include the expected savings over the course of the agreement?
Dennis has done a thing on,
It's just hard to add sort of like items that are not part of the question in a way that doesn't kind of mess it up.
Well, the
Or a total savings over the life.
yeah, I mean, the reason I'm in favor of this particular agreement is because over the life of the agreement, which it's got a big number associated with the lifetime outflow from the town. But you know, the reality of it is, through the gains in efficiency, the town is actually going to save money. So if you put a giant number behind it, and then without the benefits next to it, then people are going to be like, whoa, wait a minute, that's a lot of money we're signing up for.
I just want people to know, I mean, I'm in agreement with it. I think it's a good, I think it's gonna save us money in the long run. We should absolutely do that. But I can see some people looking at that saying,
Unless you were sitting here, you
you
wouldn't.
wouldn't
Yeah.
know.
You wouldn't know.
You know,
and Dennis has started to put the information out there on Cumston's website and Cumston Hall Friends website, Facebook page and different things. So,
it's just my opinion. I'm only one person, so if everybody else feels that it's okay the way it is.
I can add it as like a sentence after the period, after the question. I did it down below because he came in and mentioned the same thing with the bonds, which we'll get to in a minute. I could put something like, it is estimated that the rebate and energy savings will total X over, I can't remember how many, I think it's 25 years.
Yeah.
I could do something like that after the period, because then it's not part of the question. I could do
That
that.
would be fine, I think.
These things are the disadvantage to not having a town meeting, right? Where
Sure.
you can get out
Where you can
and
have a
show the
conversation.
spreadsheet and
Yeah.
There's a workshop.
explain what you're doing, yeah. Right there. Shall the town raise and appropriate $305,000 to fund the town's capital reserve accounts? Fire Department Equipment Reserve, $30,000, Revaluation Reserve, $25,000, and Road Maintenance Reserve, $250,000.
One of the questions I had on this one, and I went in and talked to Justin about it, and not that it has anything to do with the wording of the particular question, are these funds gonna require approval from the voters before they are spent? if we put $30,000 in a fire department reserve fund and we do this for 2 or 3 years, it builds up to 90,000. Can Dan say, let's go buy a four-wheeler to ride through the woods to put fires out in the woods? Because we've already got money appropriated, or does it fall under the purchasing policy where if it's under $10,000, it can be purchased? Or can he just take the, and Justice said he probably has to come back to the board to get approval. But it still doesn't get voter approval. You could make a huge purchase just based on the select board's vote. And people could say, well, why didn't we get a chance to vote on this? We go back and say, well, but you gave us a little money every year and built it up, and just a concern I have, that's all.
Now, for example, the repeater, I already planted the seed that it could be 15 grand. And if this gets approved for 30,000, I'm gonna come to the board and say, okay, here's our estimate. We'd like to take half these funds to get this critical piece of infrastructure in place. I would still bring a big purchase like that to your attention, and then it's on public record, I would, I'm not gonna save up 90,000 and then just go. I would love to, but I wouldn't do that.
Right.
Right. Based on our conversation, Mike, I added that last sentence, the explanation that says expending money from these accounts requires approval of the select. Just so they know it's not me.
Yes.
I didn't get the updated. I know you said you added.
You have your questions on
I
that
have
one,
my
so
notes.
you're gonna want that
Yeah.
one, but yes. Yep. Just at the reserve funds, right?
Shouldn't the article say that rather than the explanation? So the town raised an appropriate 300.
Reserve funds are typically, they're typically in the responsibility of the select board. They're not part of an operating budget, so they kind of fall outside of my ability to spend, just like certain capital lines that are put aside. I can't you have to sign lease agreements and things like that, or you have to direct me to do it at the time that I sign it. I can't do that without.
Can we say at the end of reserve accounts to be spent at the discretion of the select board?
Yep, I could change that. Like expending, did you want to change the sentence or just expending money from these accounts? Is at the discretion of the select board? Do you like that
Yeah,
language better?
yeah,
Okay. Is everybody?
rather than it being.
Actually giving the select board the go-ahead in the question itself.
Mm.
We
Correct.
voted to allow the select board to do this.
Yeah.
Right.
Only the voters can appropriate the money. You can spend it. Did question 17 pass? Shall the town create a Compton Hall Building Maintenance Reserve Fund for the purpose of funding improvements and renovations to Compton Hall and appropriate 50,000 from the estimated proceeds received from the efficiency main rebate for the HVAC improvement project at Compton Hall for the same? This would be moving the rebate monies into a Compton Hall Reserve Fund. Article 20, should question 17 pass, shall the town appropriate the remaining $36,000 from estimated proceeds received from the efficiency main rebate for the HVAC improvement project at Compton Hall for the Beaver Brook replacement project? This is the money we talked about at the last meeting, the overage. Article 21, shall the town create a public safety building reserve fund for the purpose of funding feasibility studies, construction, and maintenance of public safety buildings, and raise and appropriate $60,000 for the same? The other thing I should say is when you create the reserve accounts, like it is here, the wording that's in the article when it's created is binding upon you on what you could spend it on. So like for this one, the reason it says for the purpose of blank, 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 you can only spend it for those. You can't then take that reserve money and go buy a police cruiser, because that's not what the town authorized you. That's not what they raised the money for. Shall the town create a police department equipment reserve for the purpose of purchasing and repairing police department equipment and raise and appropriate $10,000 for the same? Shall the town create a transfer station facility reserve fund for the purpose of funding improvements to the transfer station facility using the per capita fee currently at $6 per resident that the town receives from the town of Wales and appropriate an estimated $11,360 from this fee for the same. My understanding is that fee was originally set up to make capital contributions to the transfer station. And ever since it's been set up, it's just been pouring in as general revenue to Monmouth. And I heard through the grapevine that they had they were starting to have rumblings over there. So I thought I would present that for your consideration so that they would be aware that the money is being used to fix items at the transfer station and not to be spent on our general government expenditures. That was the idea behind it. Article 24, shall the town vote to authorize the issuance of up to $750,000 in general obligation bonds or notes of the town for the purpose of financing the design and construction of a sand and salt shed to be located at the Public Works facility on Academy Road? The details of such borrowing, including provisions that the bonds may be taxable or tax exempt, prepaid, or subject to call for redemption with or without premium, and the dates, maturities, denominations, and interest rates to be determined by the select board, and raise and appropriate $15,000 for the first interest-only payment. It is estimated that future annual principal and interest payments will be approximately $50,000. And I've got all that financial statement. If you want me to read it, I can.
Should there be two in parentheses versus one?
Yeah, I suppose you don't need, wait, you do.
Yeah, you do,
You
because you gotta close
Okay.
the parentheses.
Yep, sure.
The S is in parentheses, and then you have to close the whole sentence.
Oh, right.
For
Oh, yeah, it looks a little funny
Yeah.
all next to each other.
Yeah,
Correct.
It's interesting that computer programming would also agree. I'm gonna have the second parenthesis.
Shall the town vote to authorize the issuance of up to $700,000 in general obligation bonds and notes of the town for the purpose of financing the completion of construction of the 1856 Monmouth Academy building? The details of such borrowing, including provisions the bonds may be taxable or tax exempt, prepaid, or subject to call for redemption, with or without the premium, and dates, maturities, denominations, and interest rates to be determined by the select board, and raise and appropriate $14,000 for the first annual payment. Is estimated the future annual principal and interest payments will be approximately $50,000. Article 26, shall the town enact a solid waste storage ordinance? Copies are available for inspection at the town office. This will be fun. Article 20 is to see if the town of Monmouth will vote to adopt provisions of 5 MRS Section 18252C as enacted by Public Law 2021, Chapter 286, as allowed by the Maine Public Employees Retirement System, Maine PERS Rule, Chapter 203, for its non-participating employees with optional membership who previously declined to participate in Maine PERS eligible employees effective July 1, 2024, and to authorize the town manager to sign an amended agreement with Maine PERS subject to the following requirements. A, beginning in 2024 and to annually offer eligible employees who have been employed for less than 5 years the opportunity to join Maine PERS on a prospective basis during an open enrollment period from September 21st through November 1st, and to provide Maine PERS with documentation of each election made by eligible employees under this provision, and to withhold employee contributions for employees who join under this provision on an after-tax basis and to remit them to Maine PERS. Where?
Shake their head.
That's their statute, that's their required language. Shall
Maybe you could put in there the explanation if that fits what.
I can, if you want, I can put it, yeah, because it's, the explanation's pretty simple. It's just that it's going to allow employees who have worked for the town for less than 5 years to join Maine PERS annually, except, right now they have to do it, I think, within 30 or 60 days of employment. And this will give them up to 5 years to change their mind. And Lori went to an HR thing yesterday, and I guess this is just the first baby step. I guess there's pressure on Maine PERS to let people in basically at will on an annual basis or on some. So this is the first one coming. Yes.
Would it be helpful to have some kind of explanation?
Yeah, if you want. I mean, I'm happy to put something that kind of says this just allows town employees to join Maine PERS up to 5 years after something simple. Is that
Yeah.
fine?
Yeah.
Shall an ordinance entitled Park Ordinance, last revised in 2012, be repealed, and shall an ordinance entitled Monmouth Beach Ordinance 2024 be enacted? Copies of the proposed ordinance are available for inspection at the town office.
Just an FYI, I asked about the non-binding
Right.
question about allowing or not allowing Ron residents. And Justin answered and said, because I didn't see it in here, you know, and we talked about doing that the attorneys stated that we couldn't put it in there.
She just recommended that you not put it on the warrant because residents tend to take what's on that as, even if it says non-binding, she has lots of experience where people will hold that over the elected board's head forever. And that it's better to kind of do it separately. And when you want to enact fees, for example, hold a public hearing and actually engage their input in that so that you can hear from people that might, you know, may not have voted here, but might be interested in that particular issue.
So then, if Article 28 were to pass, the
Yes,
select board would be authorized to charge fees, but we don't necessarily have to
correct. And you can only do it after a public hearing.
after a public hearing. So people will have one more bite at the apple if they would like to share with their select board members that they're not super enthusiastic about us charging fees
Correct.
Or having non-residents.
or having non-residents or what have you.
Yeah.
But we would have the authority to prevent non-residents from using the beach.
Yes,
And we would have the authority to charge fees of non-residents.
yes.
Yes.
And you'd have the authority to create rules above and beyond the ordinance that you saw fit, again, after a public hearing. So you wouldn't have to go to the voters to add, you know, you can only park there for 2 hours, you know, whatever. Parking's not a good example because that's a different ordinance, but you know what I mean? There could be something else that you'd want to do down there at some point. Shall the town appropriate monies from snowmobile registration fees reimbursed to the town by the treasurer of the state of Maine, $6 per registration for the purpose of grooming and maintaining snowmobile trails solely within the municipal limits of the town of Monmouth? Article 30, shall the town authorize select board to receive taxes from tax club members after the payment due date without interest? Shall the town authorize the select board to appropriate an estimated amount of $641,766 for municipal revenue sharing and $1,330,850 from fiscal year 2025 non-property tax revenue to reduce the tax commitment? You may see if you read the magazine that they're starting to say not to include the revenue sharing number in your warrant, and I'm happy to take it out. I was just afraid that if you did it without a lot of public notice, that they would think that you weren't including it. And it's something that everybody's sort of used to seeing. So I didn't take it out, but they're starting to recommend that you don't put it on.
Why?
Because the state law already requires that the money be used to buy down the tax rate. So the concern is that if you word it wrong or that the intent could be taken incorrectly, that you're going to use it for something that you're not. This language passed the straight face test with our town attorney, so I'm not worried, but I always send this to them before I give it to you, so I think we're fine, but just if you read that article there. Shall the town vote to require 1/2 of the taxes for the 24-25 fiscal year due and payable on October 15, 2024, and 1/2 of the taxes for 2024-25 fiscal year due April 15, 2025? And see if the town will vote to require the rate per annum of interest set by the treasurer of state of Maine at 8.5% be charged on October 16, 2024 and April 16, 2025 on all unpaid taxes, and shall the select board be authorized to postpone the due date of taxes and waive interest when the governor declares a state of emergency. These October 15th, and I'm not sure about the April 15th, it does fall on a Saturday. This was a recommendation of our new tax collector, because what it does is it allows all of the lien dates and their maturities are on a fixed date every year, so they don't have to do the counting. So what happens is when the taxes are due on a Saturday, by state law, if we're not open, they're due on Monday. So if you throw them in the box or we get them in the mail over the weekend, we backdate them to the due date. So it has no functional, but if you look at a calendar, you're gonna be like, oh, it's on a weekend. but that's why. So if you're okay with that, it does make the lien process much simpler. Other than on a leap year. Um, Shall the town authorize the select board to sell and dispose of any real estate acquired by the town for non-payment of taxes thereon on such terms the select board deem advisable and execute a quitclaim deed for such property? Said sale shall be conducted by sealed bid after public notice, including the community advertiser, except for repurchase by original owner or taxpayer of said property. Except that the select board shall use the special sale process required by 36 MRSA section 943C for qualifying property if requested by the former owners.
State law said we can't do the sealed bid thing anymore. It has to be listed with the state agent.
Only if the taxpayer requests it. So that's why with the ones that we know, like the one on Wilson Pond Road, that there are no heirs, there's nobody to request it. So that's why we don't necessarily have to have that realtor lined up for those. It's the ones where somebody's either in it or someone can make a claim to it that it's theirs. We may have to go through that process.
If the community advertiser doesn't resume publication.
We'd have to find something else. Which would generally mean something in local circulation. So if we had to, it may be the KJ or the Sun, you know, they're really expensive or whatever
Like
else.
a career or
Something,
something.
yeah.
Do we? With that, so there's some wiggle room,
There is, including
including.
after public notice, including the community advertiser. So it doesn't necessarily exclude anything else.
Shall the town authorize the select board to make municipal expenditures based on the latest approved municipal budget if the proposed budget in whole or part fails to pass until a proposed municipal budget in whole or in part is approved? Will the town authorize the select board to accept and expend or utilize for its intended purpose on behalf of the town any grants or funds awarded or paid to the town by any state or federal agency, grant or other monetary donation from any other public or private entity, organization, or individual, and any gift of personal property, and to authorize select board to apply for such grants, funds, or donation where an application is required or take any other action thereon? 36, shall the town vote to authorize select board to dispose of surplus equipment and property through sale or donation of said items? And 37, shall the town vote to authorize the select board to appropriate tax increment financing revenues from the development program fund of the tax increment financing district for the purpose authorized in the district's development program? So,
You need a motion for this?
yes, if I could, and what I'm gonna do is if you do it and you say as amended, if you're okay with me writing up the rest of that, I'll have this in the town office next week, and if you could come and sign it as soon as humanly or at least three of you, if you could sign it as humanly possible, because Jessica needs to get the ballots made up out of this thing, so she needs to send it off.
We still need to, I've been in the town office twice, this is an aside, to sign that.
I think,
No, I did sign
Okay.
yours, but the alcohol thing for Compton, is that still there from last meeting? Cause it was gonna be there and then I was in there and forgot to sign it, so. From last meeting, cause you weren't at the last meeting, so we didn't have.
oh, I had it probably in front of me, didn't I? I
Yes.
forgot about it.
Yeah, so whether or not.
I'm sorry, I will have it there I'll have it there with
Yeah.
this next week. I'll write myself a note
Cause
so I
I
don't
was there
forget.
paying my taxes.
Sorry about that. I didn't
Then
mean to make
left.
you come in.
We didn't,
I
It's
forgot.
there. in a
it is
folder.
there?
It is?
It is
Oh,
there in the
I did
folder?
put it out there?
Yeah, because I signed it.
Okay,
Oh,
yeah,
you did?
I forgot.
Okay, I forgot to ask after I left, and then I left and went, shoot, I was just there and forgot. Anyhow, all right, I make a motion, we approve the 2024 town warrant as amended.
Second.
There was a motion by Chris, second by Kent to approve the warrant for the annual town meeting as amended. All those in favor? You. That's me. Warrant number 19 is the next item. Hold it. Current fiscal year.
Amazon Capital Services, 2 invoices totaling $1,103. They're basically equipment for for Jamie used because the vacuums and stuff belong to the.
Good luck with that, Jason.
That's good.
I can see it. Okay.
You're a better man than I, especially me right now.
DJ's Municipal Supply, Transfer Station Uniforms, Public Works, Safety Equipment. Tony wanted them to have range act up at the transfer station. Fabian Oil, Cumston Hall Heat, $1,608. Oh, sorry, the total is $2,591. Thermal Industries Demo Removal, $2,469.48. Main Equalization Consultants, Assessing Services, $2,437. Main Waste to Energy Tipping Fees, $14,391. RSU number 2, $516,459. State of Maine Bureau of Motor Vehicles, $3,792. Another one for BMV, sorry, these two are added together, $8,103. West Bank Trust, that's one of our bonds, $5,090.75. For a grand total of $564,161.75.
Motion, we approve fiscal year 23-24 warrant number 19.
So the motion by Chris, second by Joe to approve warrant number 19 for current fiscal year. All those in favor? Thank you.
I will say before we adjourn, the whole reason I started doing this was because I said, it's like, I'm sick of my taxes going up every year. I've got to go up there and be a part of this. And I will say now that I'm here, it's very challenging. Where do you not spend money? And I think Tony said it pretty good. You pay it now or pay it later. But this is gonna take us up to approximately 5.5 million in debt for the town, which is a lot. And I don't think we should be shocked if people don't prove all this stuff. And moving forward, we're gonna have to try to find some places to draw things back a little bit in the years to come.
Yeah, it's interesting. It's interesting you mentioned that because at the RSU meeting, the workshop, last week, I said to them, look, we put all of our long-term goals on hold as a municipality last year. Every one of them. We didn't borrow. We did needs only. We did not do any wants. We didn't do any long-term investment at all. And this year, we have an opportunity to take care of one significant long-term investment, the salt shed, which, like the Cumston Hall investment, is got to pay back to it. It's going to take some time. It's got to pay back to it. The reality, I hear you, Mark. The reality of my impression of having served in the legislature and seen what goes on at the federal level, the reality for any taxpayer should be that municipal spending has got to be the most scrutinized, most squeezed type of spending, most efficient taxpayer spending that there is. And it's because so many people have participated in putting together a budget. Like, it's impossible to pull a fast one because there are so many people looking at this thing looking for every last nickel. There are a tremendous amount of needs, and it is definitely, you know, something that we need to be frugal with. But nonetheless, we do have to invest in the future of our town.
Creating the reserve funds, I really think is a good thing because it's gonna save us on $5.5 million worth of debt, the interest payment that we make every year. We could buy a lot of stuff with that interest money. Because the salt shed is not a $750,000 thing, it's a $1.1 million thing by the time we pay the interest on it over the 20 or 25 years. And you know, the bond for the old academy is $1 million. It's not 700,000 because by the time you pay the interest, if you start saving money for things that you need versus borrowing it, it's a really good thing. Somehow we gotta get shifted to that mode. Will we adjourn?
Second, all those in favor?